So, a friend of mine once said, Niels, I have this team who thinks zero defect is impossible. And I found on your website some of your sayings. It says, that's what I said then. In my experience, the zero defects attitude results in 50% less defects almost overnight. That sounds cheap, right? Cost hardly anything. So I made this presentation for him, for his team. I did it, and then I kept it for you. Who am I? I'm an electronic engineer by birth. So I'm not a tester, I'm an engineer. I had a company designing electronic products, hardware, firmware, for my customers. And when my customers became rich and I not, I stopped that company and started explaining others how to do that. And usually they asked me to coach projects when there's a problem. If there's no problem, no reason to ask a coach, right? So we call that project rescue, which is usually not difficult. So if you have any problems with your project or with your work, we can talk. And because actually I like designing electronic products more, that's what I do if I have a chance. And what projects can I coach? Well, anything, because it's just human behavior. Okay. Who is in software? Who is not in software? Who is in software? Oh, that's better. Always checking the statistics. Yeah. So, is software without defects possible? Yes? It depends. Not? Okay. So, that's why you're here. Of course it's possible. Yeah? I can prove you immediately. Accidentally, there could be no bugs, right? So it is possible. Yeah? And when I had my electronic product design company, we couldn't afford to have customers coming back with problems. So what we delivered simply worked. So I know it's possible, and that's why we are here. Yeah? But you all said it's impossible, so how many defects are acceptable? First, who is tester? Who is QA? Now I asked tester and QA. Yeah? Okay. Who is a developer? Ah, that's the guys we have to talk to. Yeah? How many defects are acceptable? I mean, the developers, I'm sure, they have requirements. Yeah? So they develop what is required, right? Do they deliver defects? Do the developers deliver defects? So apparently it's required. Right? Yeah? So do they specify a certain number of defects? And do the testers, requirements like deliver 7 bugs, right? That's what you see as a requirement? Or some people don't like the word requirement, so they say, we use user stories. Yeah? So as a customer, I like to experience some bugs so I can complain. Is that a good story? Yeah? Apparently, these are there. Otherwise, why do they deliver them? Right? So do you, as a tester, check that they delivered the right number of defects? Did you? Yeah? Did you count them? Who's counting defects? You know, if you count them, you send a message to them that they have to deliver them, right? So don't count them. You count the number of days that you didn't find any. How about that? So in your work, How much time is spent putting the defects in, and how much time is spent in trying to find and fix them? How much? 50-50? Something like that, 50-50 plus or minus 30. Yeah? Do you sometimes get repeated issues? So you get a problem, and then later you find a similar or the same problem. Yes? No? Exactly. Yeah. The first time, it's the problem of the developer, because they put it in. The second time, it's the problem of the testers, because they didn't help the developers from now on never to do it again. Yeah. So I was at a software conference of a large company. You see, Zero Defects is difficult. Yeah, we see only half of that top part. But they said we worked as a software development process together with the university, and this came out. First part, injecting the defects. Second part, trying to find and fix them. Yeah. Software developers, are they perfect? The developers, of course. What do the testers think? Are they perfect? No, they put bugs in. Yeah, right? So, are testers perfect? Well, they're also human, aren't they? People make mistakes. We are people. Therefore, if we've done something, there are mistakes. Yeah? So if the testers find maybe 50% of the bugs that are there, or are you perfect, you find 100? Let's assume it's 50-50. That means if you find one, the customer finds one. If you find two, the customer finds two. How many do we allow the customer to find? Yeah, so you as a tester still have work to do, not to find any bug. Right? So interesting. A year later, I was in Bangalore at the software conference. Same picture from Microsoft. After my talk. Interesting. Better quality cost less. Yeah, you don't believe that? Just yesterday I added this slide because I found that book. Yeah, and he agrees, extreme reliability. Do you like to fly in an airplane full of software? Do you dare? Yeah, or do you expect them not to put in bugs? Their requirement says, don't put in bugs. Yeah? He says, all my experience has convinced me to take, that it takes less time. It's quicker in the short time as well. Quality cost less. That's my shortest mantra. Yeah? I was at a working group for metrics, software metrics. And every month we came together to discuss software metrics. And they were counting function points and number of bugs and things like that. So one of the guys came in, he said, Niels, big joke, we got a new manager. You know what she said? I want to see no defects in the first 2 weeks of operation of the software in this bank. Big joke. I said, finally you have a good manager who tells you what your job is. Not to count function points, but not to produce bugs. But first, let's say, well, the problem with bugs is, it's not a bug. A bug is something creepy in your code. You can't do anything about it, right? Yeah? Bullshit. That's not right. Yeah? A defect is not a bug. It's injected by somebody. Yeah? A defect is the cause of a problem experienced by any of the stakeholders, yeah, while relying on our results. Using our stuff, they have a problem. Which means if there is no problem, there is no bug or no defect, whatever word you want to use, right? So any defects you find in the part of the software that is never used, let's say half of the software is never touched by anybody, right? Yeah? If you find the so-called defect or bug in that part of the software is not a defect according to this definition, because the customer doesn't find out at all. Yeah? Therefore, the only bug is there. Don't write all those bugs, because they are not bugs. The only bug is that that part of the software was made. Yeah? Now, what is Zero Defects? Yeah? In the first program of this conference, they put as a title, Zero Defects. I said, well, if we keep that, nobody comes, because everybody thinks that's impossible. Well, most people think that's impossible. So I said, change the title in how to move towards Zero Defects. Yeah? So it's not that we turn a knob and suddenly we are perfect. Yeah? Zero Defect is an asymptote. You know what an asymptote is? It's a mathematical line that you try to approach nearer and nearer and nearer, but you never touch it. Now, if your asymptote is 13 errors per 1,000 lines of code, which is the industrial average, so developers, you produce 13 errors per 1,000 lines of code, well done, good quality. No, the only way to ever approach Zero Defects is have it as your target, because otherwise you won't even get there. Yeah? And this thing we call the learning curve. In the beginning, you make many mistakes, and you learn better and better. And if the target is Zero Defects, there may be a moment that you almost get there. Phil Crosby started with this word, Zero Defects. Yeah? When he started with it, you know why he started? He was the quality guy at the company where they made rockets, and they test-fired them at Cape Canaveral. And most of the rockets didn't work. So his manager said, Bill, why is this a problem? He said, well, every rocket has 10,000 of components. And if one component doesn't work, the rocket doesn't work. So statistically, it's very plausible that most of them don't work. Now his manager said, Bill, you are the QA guy here. And not the tester, and the QA guy, helping people not to make these mistakes. So he said, Bill, I'm sure that in the world there's somebody who can make these things better. And it would be nice if it were you. So he said, now my job was on the line. So he went to his people, he said, how can we do this? You know, within a few weeks, errors dropped by 40%, which is easy counting if every week you test fire 10 rockets. Yeah? Now, I had a similar thing. I was working in a company where they had some touch screen device to control audio systems with rich American people. Yeah, that was in 2000, so there was no sweeping or so, but they had a touch screen. And I came there, and the manager said, well, we can't sell this product because it breaks down all the time. So you get 6 weeks to show that you can improve this. So I talked with the guys, and I said, guys, it crashed within a few seconds. Yeah, and they were adding features, and every time they added a new feature, they very quickly tried to get there before it crashed to see whether the feature worked. Yeah. So I said, well, take out everything to the bare minimum and make that stable. So I was working somewhere else, and then 2 weeks later I came back. And I said, is it stable now? Well, they said it's much stabler. It was in Belgium. It's much stabler. And I said, well, if it crashes not in seconds but in minutes, you can check your features, but the customer can't use this. We can't sell it. So what's the point? And we still have only 4 weeks, otherwise, So another week later, I was there, and the testers came to me and they said, Niels, something weird is going on. we don't find bugs anymore, and it keeps working. So, because of that, yeah, we got another 6 weeks, finished the project, and that was the product being sold. Yeah. So, that's my 50%. Yeah, there it is. So, Bill said, AQL, more than 0, is the organization is settling on a level of incompetence. Do you like that word? Causing a hassle other people have to live with. Now, I'm not native English, so I had to check what the word hassle actually means. I mean, if I hear it, I already feel something. Yeah? But I found hassle is a problem, unnecessary difficulty. Yeah? Now, when I found that when in a project, in a team, I said, can we have 0 defects? That's too absolute. But I said, no hassle. That's something that they could handle. If I do this, do I hassle the users or not? Can you imagine the difference? We are not perfect, but the customer shouldn't find out. How about that? So, what are we going to do, knowing we are not perfect, but making sure the customer doesn't find out? What can we do? And we are all clever people. So once the challenge is there, and that's the interesting thing, actually it's only a mindset. In Agile they talk about mindset. This is a mindset. Because at this terminal thing, I just said, I don't want to see defects anymore. And it took 2-3 weeks for them to find out I was dead serious about it. But after that, they didn't make them anymore. Yeah? So, Crosby has this book. It cost only 10 euros. So buy it. I came to a company and I gave this book to the boss. And I said, next week if I come back, you have read it. So next week I said, did you read it? Yes, I did. And I stopped an important release because we were going to hassle our customers. And I postponed it because we are not going to hassle them anymore. And he calculated the price of non-conformance. The price of conformance is developing and testing and to see that it works. Or, as Paul said, checking. Yeah? So the price of non-conformance is everything beyond that. He calculated the price of non-conformance in his company in the past year, €250,000. So the culture in the company changed overnight just by reading this 10 € book. Well, maybe because I was watching over his shoulder. Okay. His organization, he's dead. Most quality gurus are dead, but yeah, I'm still here. The purpose is customer success, and they added there, not customer satisfaction, because usually people say quality is customer satisfaction. Well, it's still customer satisfaction. Yeah. So, just to show that, this is my universal goal of what we deliver for a salary. Yeah. Delivering the right result at the right time, shorter quality on time, yeah, the right stuff at the right time, wasting as little time as possible, efficiently. How about this as the goal of what we do? Whether you develop or you test or whatever, right? A little bit more elaborate, providing the customer with what they need, which is usually not what they say, at the time they need it, which may be earlier or later than they say, to be satisfied, then they want to pay, and to be more successful than before. If they're not more successful with what we deliver, why would they pay? Right? But customer is king, we are not slaves, so it must be win-win, what the customer can afford, what they want they cannot afford. Yeah. Do you want a Rolls Royce? Yeah, I like a Rolls Royce. Do you know what it costs? Give me a Volkswagen. And what we mutually, beneficially, and satisfactorily can deliver in a reasonable period of time. How about this as the top-level requirement of what we do? Every word very carefully chosen. So here you see the satisfaction is still there. Yeah. Do you know what root cause analysis is? Who knows root cause analysis? Yeah. I came in a company where they had Bugzilla, a database full of bugs. You know, never, ever have a database for bugs. Who has a database for bugs? Who has not? You're fooling me. Who has? Who has not? You're still fooling me, but I'm not going to waste more time. So, if you have a database for bugs, it means you have to have them. It's a signal to the developers that they have to produce them, otherwise you can't put them in the database. Yeah? It's as bad as counting them. But they had this, when I came the first time, they had 4,000 bugs in it, some 15 years old. So I said, can you get rid of most of them? The next time there were 1,000, but that's another story. So they had the cause and the solution. And I added two boxes there, the root cause and the root solution. And later when I came back, I saw they filled in the cause at the root cause and the solution at the root solution. So apparently they didn't see the difference between cause and root cause. And I'm not going to waste my statistics again. So what's the cause? The cause is the error that caused the problem for the user. Clear? The root cause is what caused us to produce this error, to cause this problem at the user. That's the root cause. Asking 5 times, why did this happen? Therefore, the first time it's the problem of the developers. The second time it's the problem that you didn't help them never ever to do it again. Because without proper root cause analysis, we are doomed to repeat the same things. As you just said, yeah, you see repeated errors. You see? Now, if we are testing and QA, which is not the same, of course, testing is the measuring part of QA, because now you know that QA is helping the developers. So, does it assure quality? No. Quality comes not from testing, but from improvement of the development process. Testing does not improve quality, nor guarantee quality. It's too late. The quality, good or bad, is already in the product. You cannot test quality into a product, right? Okay, who's the customer of testing? Who's your customer? Any idea? The user? Ah, good answer. The developer, of course. Yeah? Because who put them in? The developers. Ah, who's a developer? You're still there to say. Who is a programmer? The programmers are the mercenaries, of course. Yeah, the developers know how to do it, and then the coders, or the anyway. So, the main customer of QA testing is not the user, yeah, it's developer. Now, what should we deliver to these customers? What are they waiting for? Are they waiting for you? Well, remember my universal goal, to deliver what they need at the time they need it, to be satisfied. Are they satisfied if you come to them? Yeah? Are they more successful than before? Well, isn't that a good requirement for your work? Is this something that may change your mind about what your task is? Testers and QA are consultants to development. How about that? Yeah, and it works both ways. The testers want to help them, the developers want to ask the testers, you look from a different angle. You see things we don't see yet, we don't see anymore, we don't see at all. Yeah? Please help us to look with your different way of looking at it, so that together we make sure that the customer never sees that we are not so perfect. And of course we have the plan, do, check, act cycle, short cycle, whatever. You know this? Who knows this? Who doesn't know it? Well, okay. Well, first we have the intuitive cycle. Yeah? Intuition is how you automatically react on situations, right? Yeah? Instinct is before birth, intuition is after birth, based on experience. So the intuitive cycle is pull do. What's the next thing we have to do? We do it. Next thing we have to do, we do it. I can't call it plan, so I call it pull. Yeah? Now, if intuition would be perfect, everything we do would be perfect, right? Not everything we do is perfect. Therefore, apparently, intuition sometimes points us in the wrong direction. So, once we recognize that, we can say, should we plan what to achieve and how to achieve it? Then do according to the plan, which is already difficult because the plan must be doable and we must follow the plan. And then in the check phase, we can say, was the result according to plan and the way we achieved it according to plan? And was it the right thing at all? That's the analysis. And then in the act phase, we can say, what are we going to do differently the next time? Because if we don't do anything differently, the next time it will be the same. Otherwise, statistics wouldn't exist. Yeah. Usually the check is somewhere in our mind. We have some feeling, yeah, we should do better, etc., but we are so busy. But remember, quality costs less. Yeah. Act. What are we going to do differently in the next cycle? If I start coaching a team, we do this every week. Every week we think, what are we going to do differently the next week to be better? And after some time, it becomes just a way of life. How can we prevent defects? Well, this is what we see. This is what you do. Yeah, repair. Well, how about this? The main purpose of testing is to finding the things where the developers are not yet perfect. And the one is, can we prevent them? And the two is, how can we improve the sieve that didn't catch them immediately after injection? And then this is a byproduct, the repair. Some examples. Well, I'm an engineer, and an engineer learns to design first. Not just to start. Who starts coding without design? Who designs first? At least some. Thank you. So you design, review, ask others to review, because they find things that we didn't see. Usually people, if I design something, I send it to people, I don't get a response, so I review myself a week later and I find issues. Then it can be coded, the code is reviewed, and you know what happens then with testing? They don't find anything. And this is a method. Yeah, anybody heard about clean room? Yeah, we are getting old. That's in the 70s. They produced 10-fold less defects in less time. So why don't we learn about that? Yeah, this is what they did. If the testers found a bug, they sent the whole stuff back to developers. Because if we find one, customer finds one, etc. Yeah, they send it back, not to repair the bug, to start all over with the design. Now, if you do that 2 or 3 times, you get clean code. That simply works. Just a mindset. Well, I explained with the thing, yeah? So, no Band-Aid, start all over again. That's clean room. With heavy reviewing, yeah, line for line. And in the reviewing of the code, it is not anybody found something? No. Do you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree? The slowest reviewer determines the pace, they say. And then, did you ever ask, can I see the design log? You know what the design log is? That's what I do, what I did and do. Design log is chapters. At the top is the requirement, what to achieve. Then the reasoning and asking questions and maybe pictures, etc. And at the bottom of the chapter it says, this is based on these criteria how we decided to do it. And then 2 weeks later you say it was a nice idea, it doesn't work, and you repeat part of the process. Design logging, that's what engineers do. I was at another test conference and at a workshop day, and I asked, what are you doing? They were all QA engineers. And, are you testers? Yes, we are testers. Okay. So one case in the pub. In the pub, James learned at another company from design logging, and he was a new company as a QA guy. And, well, they didn't know about requirements, so I came there for a requirements workshop. At the end of the day, they had defined the requirement for the first sprint. Okay. And then they said, tonight we have our monthly pub day. So come to the pub. So we had drinks and bites. And then James came with Louise. He said, Niels, this is Louise. Louise, tell your story. Niels told me about design logging. So Louise said, well, we had only 7 days, and we were testing, coding, testing. Yeah, you know that picture? I found it on the internet. Yeah, very bad. And James said, stop coding, testing, go back to your design. Yeah, but we have only 7 days. Yeah, we don't have time. James came into this company at the level that he could say, stop coding, go back to your design. So that's what she did. And we found a problem, cleaned up the mess, because in this coding, testing, you create a lot of scars. Yeah. Done in less than 7 days, thank you, she said. I put this on the web page, on my website. I sent a message to James. James, can you check with her that this is a good interpretation of what she said? He said, it was much more interesting, because I gave the design to a few colleagues for review. Now, people who review without review education find hardly anything. You know that, right? Yeah. You have to learn how to look at the things. So they found a few trivialities. She repaired that. And then James said, well, let's finally review it before you can go to the code. And then another guy came in who didn't review before. And he said, if you implement this, we get into trouble. And they redesigned the whole thing together. And actually, he said, 2 features were done by this team. One done this way, it simply worked. And the other one, not done this way, full of bugs. So, well, it was clever people in this company. So from now on, this is what they decided to keep doing, design logging first. At another company, I said, where are the pictures? I said you have to write things down, you make your design logging, but I didn't see pictures. Where are the pictures? Yeah? So they came up with a picture like this. Do you see the bug there? You are all testers. You see the bug there? It's a nice picture. It looks impressive, right? Yeah. So I redraw it. That doesn't mean that's better, but that's, for me, it's easier to follow. And by doing it, I almost immediately saw my problem. There it says, if n is not and if n is equal, then this or that happens. Now, if that test is done first there, let me see. So it's also in that picture, so I just copied the picture. But I saw, hey, if that is done first, what happens with the other test? It doesn't happen, because we're already gone. So depending on the order of things in your code, it will work or not work. Potential bug. Yeah? So there are many ways to represent the design. I see many ways, but only few are useful. Don't waste the reviewer's time. Don't let them try to find out what they see here. It must be obvious in one glance. And that's what I did in another project, where the boss said, let's take a systems engineer. Systems engineer make great requirements. Okay, so it was air conditioning controller, and from another company in Switzerland, they had this thing that's in your hotel room at the wall to control your air conditioning. And they said the electrician installing the equipment should be able to install it with this thing. That was years ago, before we could do it with a smartphone. Yeah. And it was a project in the US, and if we wouldn't have it, no project. So the guy made this picture, the first picture, and then 47 pages of these other parts of the picture. So I asked the engineers, did anybody read beyond page 3? Because that was boring. Cut and paste with other words there, and of course inconsistencies. So they couldn't put all the 47 pages in their brain. So I said, how about this picture? This is one picture of the same 47 pages. This is one way of doing it, how I would do it, the state machine. You don't have to read all this, but I presented this at the first company, and they said, wow, this is easy to read. I went to Switzerland. Huh? You go to Switzerland? Expensive codes? You can't go there. I said, well, nobody's running this project. Yeah? And if we don't have it in October, then there is no project. So I went there, we checked it, and then in the train back from Zurich, I made this. I thought, if we are going to implement this, how could it look like? And then I sent it to them. I said, can you review this? No answer. So a few days later, I reviewed again. I reviewed myself. I saw some issues, I know. Yeah. So then a year later I came. I didn't hear anything when I sent the last version. A year later I came because they had been using the product. Yeah, we just implemented it. Thank you. Yeah. So what's better than reviewing code? By now you know. Yeah. Can I see the design first? Because in the mind, and here we go to something we heard in the previous talk, yeah, if you see a developer and you watch his screen, what do you see? Code, 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 right? You know what the guy is doing with his poor mind there? He's trying to keep the model in his mind, but in your mind it's fading all the time, so I have to refresh all the time, yeah, with what you see. And then with the other part of the mind, you have to think what to do about it. Yeah? Now, if you put the design on paper, you don't have to refresh it all the time, and you have your whole brain available to think what to do about it. Yeah? And then this and this and this is the same. Yeah, but if the code changes the design, we forget to change the design. Well, we need a little bit of discipline, right? I'll skip this one. Finish with this one, what I did in a project. Suggestions for our deliveries. What we deliver at the end of the sprint, for instance, what we deliver will be used by the users immediately. because we need feedback. We deliver something, we need to know, assume that some of our assumptions are incorrect, so we have to check. Within 1 week, not making them less efficient than before. That's a very weak requirement, but sometimes you deliver something like Microsoft, and people get less efficient by using the new program, right? So isn't this at least the minimum requirement? If delivery cannot be used immediately, analyze why and find out so that it never happens again. Because we need the feedback. Yeah. The proof of the pudding is in the eating when it is found tasty by them. Our tastiness is not important because we think differently from users. Can you fill in your credit card number? And he put in his name, Crash. You should put in? No, this is what users do. The users determine success and whether they want to pay. We don't have to tell them, but that should be the attitude. So, do we deliver zero defect software from now on? Better quality costs less. If you don't think or want to know how to do it, we can talk about it. On my website, you can find a lot of booklets, free. Okay.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, but are there any from the audience, like in live?
Zero?
Zero. It's a 0 bucks, so 0 questions, right?
Just a question, do you have some booklet about DesignLog on your website? I'm more interested in that.
But design modeling?
About DesignLog, if you have some more experience.
Yes, there's a page on my website. Yeah, you can go to my website. At conferences, you can download the presentation. Yeah, and you find a lot of stuff there. And if you want to know more, you can find me.
Okay, thank you, Neil.
You're welcome.